Years ago, my first job out of college was Las Vegas. I worked for the NBC affiliate. I did an inning of play-by-play with the Las Vegas Stars. They're now named the Las Vegas 51s for Area 51, the UFOs. Funny name. And I was very lucky. The Mob was still in Vegas. The late Jerry Tarkanian and the Rebels were the number one college basketball odyssey in the country. And Mike Tyson was emerging as a controversial, polarizing superstar in boxing. And there was nothing like Tyson fights. I was nervous. I don't get nervous going to games. I'd be nervous. He would knock people out in the first round, but you never knew what you were getting. Did he train? Was he in good shape? Did he have good corner people? It was all over the map. And I think about that because you never knew what you were going to get. And when Patrick Mahomes came into this league and emerged as a superstar with Andy Reid, they didn't do everything well, but they had the league's best knockout punch, the league's best fastball. At their best, they were easily the best. And what makes it difficult this weekend on the fourth and final game that will be played, Buffalo at Kansas City, is Buffalo has actually surpassed Kansas City as the best knockout punch in the league. 10 times this year. 10 times. They beat teams in the NFL, this is not college football, by over 2 touchdowns. Green Bay, number 1 seed in the NFC, did it 5 times. Kansas City, 5 times. In fact, not only does Buffalo knock people out, they knock Kansas City out by 18 points. 2 times this year, the Bills shut teams out. There were only 8 shutouts in the league this year. They have a quarter of them. The Bills went into Kansas City, and Josh Allen was jumping over people, and they were dominating and unstoppable. So that's why I have said the Bills, it's hard to get my arms around them. They are Mike Tyson. I could see Josh Allen going crazy at Arrowhead, jumping over people, throwing the ball around the yard. Kansas City gets in a hole. They've got a good pass rush, and it gets ugly. I could see that. I don't expect it, but I could see it. Because I've never seen Bill Belichick in 20 years not have an answer for a player. He has no answer for Josh Allen. The last 2 times they've played, he has done virtually anything he's wanted to against Belichick. That's not the way it works. Belichick eventually has an answer for everybody. I mean, he's 2-2 against Mahomes, and Patrick has his way, but Patrick Mahomes has had bad halves. But the last 2 times I've watched Belichick against Josh Allen, it's not competitive. He does whatever he wants, mostly, even when Belichick has the right defense in at the goal line. And what you hope with Josh Allen is there's the good Josh Allen and the bad Josh Allen. Because every game they won this year, they won by over 10 points. It's very Tyson. Mike either knocked you out, or if there was strategy involved, you beat Mike. Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, if it got into strategy, then you beat Mike. But if it got into a brawl, it was over, and it was often over very early. What you hope for is Josh Allen, in his wins, had a passer rating over 100. And in his losses, had a passer rating of 81. That's Daniel Jones. So that's what you pray for. Josh Allen is off. But 5 of Buffalo's 12 wins, almost half, they scored 40 or more points. They have surpassed Kansas City as the best heater in the sport, the best knockout punch in the sport. At their peak, they are even more dynamic and unstoppable, mostly because Josh Allen is 6'6" and can hurdle people. He's never had an injury. He's just bigger and stronger than Patrick Mahomes. Emmanuel Sanders played with Peyton Manning in his prime. Emmanuel Sanders, maybe out of his prime, but Peyton won a Super Bowl in Denver. He played with the Big Ben near his prime. And he recalled one of his first practices with Josh Allen.
Probably like 3 or 4 practices in, it was just throw to Cole Beasley. It was probably like a 40-yard post route down the field. And most guys, like they have to put some type of air on that ball to get it there. And I mean, Josh just a flick of the wrist. And I mean, just on a rope, just 40 yards. And I look around and I'm looking around and I'm looking at everybody, seeing if they're like surprised by it, but nobody's surprised by it but me, because everybody's kind of just used to those type of throws. And I'm like, I've been around the league a long time. That's not a normal throw, you know what I mean? And that's when I knew. I knew he was different.
I suspect we will not get a duplicate performance earlier this year because Josh Allen, though amazing, is not quite as consistent or refined yet as Mahomes. But this is the best team in the league when they're on. And they bulldoze you and roll over you really fast. I'll have my blazing 4 picks in 1 hour. All right, let's shift to this. You noticed something last week in the NFL playoffs. Let's look back for a second. Who were the stars of the playoffs last week? I'm gonna throw a few names at you. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Josh Allen. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Deebo Samuel and Mike Evans. Oh, wait. That's because they're stars in the regular season. Nick Foles is an outlier. We don't ask our good players to perform better in the playoffs. And Michael Irvin was blasting Dak and CD Lamb and Zeke. Well, that's because Troy Aikman was top 3 in the league in his prime. And Michael Irvin was a Hall of Famer. And Emmitt Smith was arguably the best running back. They also had a Hall of Fame coach elevating them. Has anybody considered that Dak, CD Lamb, and Zeke aren't stars? I mean, you watched the Cowboy game last week. The best player on the field to me was Deebo Samuel. He was the most dominating athlete. If you look at the Cowboys' best players right now, are you asking CD Lamb and Zeke to be something they can't be? Are you asking Dak something he can't be? Dak against playoff teams not named the Eagles this year was 1-5 with a 92 passer rating. That's Mac Jones. Zeke had 2 games over 100 yards rushing. He had 52 yards or fewer in 12 games, and the Cowboys have the highest rated offensive line. CeeDee Lamb disappeared at the end of the year, a 7-game stretch with no touchdowns and the drops. Why would they be stars in the playoffs? They weren't stars during the year. The best Cowboy player right now is Micah Parsons. Watch the games. He looks better than everybody else. Number 2 is Zach Martin. And number 3 is Trayvon Diggs. Those are the 3 best players. They're dominating players. After that, the punter and old left tackle Tyron Smith, who week to week, his health is an issue. But the top 3 best players, nobody disputes that. Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, Zach Miller. Those are the 3 best players. Those are great players. Those are Hall of Fame level players. And then the next 2 guys, when Brad's healthy, Tyron Smith is healthy, he's very good. And, it's a punter. You just don't see him a lot. We're not punting as much as we used to in the NFL. But you're asking CeeDee Lamb, who at the end of the year disappeared, to be a great player. Well, he wasn't a great player post-Thanksgiving. You're asking Zeke to be a great player. He was 3 years ago. You're asking Dak to be great against a great defense. By the way, this defense for the Niners is 3-0 against Aaron Rodgers the last several years in the playoffs. So you got to be careful about asking people to do something they don't do. I think CeeDee Lamb's potentially really good. He's not a star yet. He's just talented. He's a playmaker, but he's not a star. Dak, I've said before, he's nobody wants to acknowledge this, but he's kind of in the Kirk Cousins class. That's kind of the class we put. We don't put him in the Josh Allen class. We don't put him in the Kyler Murray dynamic class. We don't put him in Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers or Brady's class. So don't ask non-stars against better competition to dominate. There's a reason Aikman, Irvin, and Emmett did. They were as good as anybody in the world at their position in their prime, with a Hall of Fame coach that created game plans to elevate each. Not only are Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and Zeke not that class, you think Mike McCarthy's elevating people? That's not what I see. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.